September 26th, Friday, 2021. When the boys were here earlier, my children, Daniel's going to veterinary labs or veterinary school. So he's now working on cows and chickens and horses, I think he said. So he's studying four-leg creatures. And it comes with, like, I know when I did anatomy physiology for bipedal, for the upright species of human, you learn like a new language almost within your normal vocabulary. So when you find someone who has a talent or specialty, it's almost fun just for a moment to try on just a little reach for your intellectual stimulation, I suppose, since whatever. So I know Benjamin and Alexander, although Alexander's very good within science, Ben doesn't speak on it ever. Alexander's very good with weird facts that I never think of addressing him with, but whatever. So Dan, I was like, since we're here with your brothers and everybody's present, I was like, I want to have a real quick conversation, real light, pearls of wisdom from Mom, since I'm the girl with the pearl earring from the Frick collection at The Hague, and currently I feel like the old hag, but whatever. I was like, so now you are working on the dorsal superior, like facing superior side. So like if we're on four legs and that leaves us with two front legs and two back legs, what in technicality terms, I was like, explain to your brothers what's the special word that they have for the front legs of an animal. And he's like, I'm pretty sure, Mom, they're just front legs. I'm like, all right. What about the back set of legs? And so he said, those are it's hind legs. I'm like, right, it is hind legs. I was like, so now Grandma had this special thing, because Benjamin apparently is going for LASIK, but Grandma had this thing in her eye called a bubble of some sort because her retina ripped off. So when Grandma looks out of her eye in her visual spectrum, we all think that we see in our visual light realm world whatever's in the foresight, whatever's in our foresight realm. But Grandma has something noticeably and discernibly different. She speaks of it like she has a bubble, a gas or an oil bubble in the back of her eye that she has to be careful when she walks downstairs, because it sometimes interrupts the hindsight, interrupts the foresight within her eye, her regular eye sight. I was like, so does that make sense? So if I ever needed you boys for a conversation about hindsight, that would be something retracted in the background per se. And then there's something called foresight, which is like the front ground. Like normally people just usually address what they see in their sight. Just one word. They're like, well, I saw this or I saw that. I was like, but there is hindsight, and then there's foresight in a hind ground and a foreground, when there's depth perception within the eye and seeing. So my sons agreed. And we had that one communicative overstate of some facts just to get it straight, that seeing things differently is not indicative of a mental disease. Grandma actually has a bubble in the back of her eye that interferes with her sight. So technically she sees things that aren't there, but they are there. They're just there for her, not for us. But it's not a mental disease for Grandma. It's just she had a tear on her retina, and now it has produced an extra effect that she is affected by for the rest of her life. That my children were not born with, and neither were I. These are effects of living within New York State during this time period altogether. So we had that conversation. Then my boys went home. I got bored of just sitting on my mat and listening to music. So I went downstairs. Lynn's watching ER. I can't with the bells, the whistles, the sirens. I'm just done. So I went downstairs, and Lewis wants to watch The Secret. I'm like, I really don't want to watch The Secret. It has something to do with Oprah's book club. I don't want to watch The Secret. Just don't. Just have a bad feeling about it. Lou's like, you gotta watch it. It's so great. I'm like, I'll sit with you for like 5-10 minutes, Lou. So he puts it on. It feels like an infomercial. It just feels wrong. I'm like, if you have a secret, why would you give a secret out to just anybody? It just doesn't make sense. You keep secrets. You don't give them out. So then I'm sitting there and I'm like, so then they go into this law of attraction, and when they started to speak on law of attraction, I started to listen to it. I'm like, this sounds like a sales pitch in somebody's kid's defense. It sounds like a defense strategy to some rich kid that got something wrong, that had enough money to pay for a campaign. That's what it sounds like to me. Because in the level of machinist brokenness that New York State is currently in, under this stress and duress factor, with 3 layers of foreseeable concern, it just feels like the law of attraction is just like, oh, it's just slimy. It just doesn't feel right. So then he said there's some guy in the show called Joe Dispenza, something like that, but he couldn't find it. I'm like, guess he's not on the show. So then he got a YouTube clip of him, and I'm like, right, yeah, again, more salesy, paid for, some drug company. What else you got? So then he flashed forward to Scott Drummond. Now, I was more spiritually curious because I know what Scott said to be certain. But again, I couldn't watch the whole thing of Scott for some reason. My whole whatever I'm wrapped up in was like, okay, I don't want to cut Scott off. He said he was part of the government. That means he's really important, or he was one day. He has this really important story to tell, but I don't want to get too entrenched or engrossed in just one, since I know a lot of people have had such a, not his exact experience, but whatever. Because Lou says he's watched a lot of them. I'm like, great, so you've got stats on that. I was like, I am like a wisp at this point. So I watched I guess it would be Mr. Drummond, because he didn't say what part of the government he was from. But, I don't know, they call everybody Mr. around here. So, as a respectful term, I don't know if Sir would be, he wasn't wearing a uniform. So it would be, he was wearing just a golf shirt. So it would, I don't know, Leave It to Beaver, they called the men in golf shirts Mr. Or the men in suits usually were Mr. So-and-so. So that would be an assumption on my part, but etiquettely, delicately, it worked in what they've been teaching around here in New York. For my protection from the human earthlings, since they seem to get a little hot-tempered around the law degrees. But that law of attraction, just, I don't know. There, I can see meaning in some of it, but not necessarily the way that they presented it. It felt very sleazy infomercial. Just my whatever. Because I see a lot of misdiagnosis of mental disease for all the wrong reasons. And I know that there is a theoretical purpose. Just, it's very disheartening. I walked Miguel today through a linguistical misstep I heard Lewis make the other night when speaking to me about atheist. And I'm like, wait, specifically like atheist as in a theology person, like mono, like one mono, like mono, like monotheist, or like it got a little confusing when he spoke. I had to have him back it up. And theist was not something Miguel was familiar with, so we had to go to theologian lightly in something beyond. Like that's where Lou was like, you have the wall of what you can explain with science. Then there's a wall and nobody knows. And sometimes there's the spiritual ones that know just a little beyond what others know. That's what my dad's been researching and looking into and so on and so forth as of lately. Star 1978, Star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza, Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. And I'm in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.